You decide you're going to get serious about saving money. This is it. You're going to build that emergency fund everyone talks about. You start with $400. Next month, you add $300. The month after that, another $250. You're at $950. You're feeling good. Then, your car needs a $600 repair. Back down to $350. You build it back up to $1,100 over 2 months. Then, you go to a wedding out of state. Flights, hotel, gift, the whole thing costs $800. You're at $300 again. And 6 months in, you're still nowhere near $10,000. Actually, you're not even at $2,000. You give up. This is the story of about 70% of people who try to save money. They fail before they ever hit $10,000. And it's not because they're undisciplined or bad with money. It's because they're fighting the wrong battle. My name is Zach, and I help people understand why building savings is actually harder than it seems and what you need to do differently to break through. Because here's the thing. Getting to your first $10,000 saved isn't primarily a math problem or a willpower problem. It's a systems problem and a psychology problem. And until you understand what's actually stopping you, you'll keep failing at the same point over and over. Let's start with the biggest reason people fail. They're trying to save from what's left over instead of saving first. This seems like a small distinction, but it's everything. Most people get paid, pay their bills, spend on groceries and gas and life, then try to save whatever remains at the end of the month. And what remains is usually zero or close to it. Life expands to consume available resources. If you've got $400 sitting in checking on day 28 of the month, something will come up that costs $400. The people who actually get to $10,000 saved do it completely differently. They get paid and immediately move a set amount to savings before they pay anything else. Before rent, before groceries, before anything. If they're saving $500 a month, that $500 disappears on payday into a separate account they don't touch. Then they live on what's left. Their lifestyle adjusts around the reduced amount because it has to. There's no choice involved, no willpower required, no decision fatigue. The money's already gone. This is called paying yourself first, and it's the difference between people who build savings and people who permanently stay at zero. Same income, same expenses roughly, totally different outcome based purely on the order of operations. Second reason people fail. They keep their savings in the same account as their checking or somewhere too accessible. You've got $3,200 saved. It's in your regular bank account or in a savings account you can transfer from instantly. You're at dinner with friends. The bill comes to $180. You were planning to spend $40, but everyone's splitting evenly and you don't want to be difficult. You justify it. I'll just pull from savings this once and replace it next month. Except you don't replace it next month. Something else comes up. Or you're scrolling online and see something you want for $300. You think, I've been so good with saving, I deserve this. You buy it from savings. The problem isn't the purchase necessarily. The problem is you've taught yourself that savings are available for regular spending. Once that mental barrier breaks, your savings account becomes just another funding source for lifestyle, and it never grows. The solution is friction. Your savings need to be in a completely separate bank from your checking. Ideally one that takes 2 to 3 business days to transfer money out of. High-yield savings accounts at online banks work perfectly for this. The money's earning 4% instead of 0.01%, and it's annoying enough to access that you won't do it impulsively. That friction is the barrier between building savings and constantly rating them. Third reason people fail. They set savings goals that are too aggressive for their actual financial reality. You're making $55,000, taking home maybe $3,400 monthly after taxes. Your fixed expenses are $2,600. That leaves $800. You read somewhere that you should save 20% of income, so you decide to save $700 monthly. And mathematically, it's possible. You've got $800 of discretionary money. But you're a human being, not a spreadsheet. You need gas, groceries, toiletries, the occasional social activity. That $100 isn't enough. So by week 3, you're dipping into savings or going over budget, and the whole system collapses. The people who succeed set achievable targets and increase them gradually. If $700 monthly isn't realistic, they start with $300. They prove they can do that for 3 months. Then they bump to $400.
Then $500. They're building the habit and the systems before trying to optimize the amount. Starting with $300 monthly gets you to $10,000 in 33 months if you never increase it. Starting with an unsustainable $700 that fails after 2 months gets you nowhere. Fourth major failure point. People don't account for irregular expenses, so they constantly get blindsided. You budget for rent, utilities, groceries, gas. You forget about car insurance every 6 months, annual subscriptions, birthday gifts, holiday spending, inevitable car repairs. These aren't emergencies. They're predictable, irregular expenses. But because you're not planning for them, they destroy your savings every time they occur. The fix is adding a sinking fund line item to your budget. Every month, you set aside maybe $200 to $300 for irregular expenses that you know are coming eventually. When car insurance is due, you pull from the sinking fund, not from savings. When your brother's wedding comes up, sinking fund. This protects your actual emergency fund from getting depleted by things that aren't emergencies. Fifth reason, lifestyle creep happens invisibly while you're trying to save. You start your savings journey spending $2,400 monthly on everything beyond fixed costs. 6 months later, you're spending $2,800 and you have no idea where the extra $400 went. A new subscription here, eating out slightly more there, upgrading something small, adding a streaming service. None of it feels significant individually, but collectively, it's eating the margin you needed to build savings. This requires active defense. Every 3 months, audit your spending. Look at every recurring charge. Cancel what you're not using. Actively decide to maintain your current lifestyle instead of letting it drift upward unconsciously. The goal is keeping your spending fixed while your income grows, so the gap that funds savings gets bigger over time instead of disappearing. Sixth failure point that nobody talks about. Social pressure and comparison destroy savings momentum. Your friends are taking trips, going to concerts, eating at nice restaurants. You're saying no constantly because you're trying to save. You start feeling left out, like you're missing your 20s or 30s while everyone else is living. Eventually, you break. You say yes to the $1,200 trip. You justify it as making memories or you only live once, and your savings get wiped out. The people who get to $10,000 either have friends who support their goals or they get comfortable being the person who says no. They find free or cheap alternatives. They're honest about their priorities instead of pretending they can't afford things. "I'm building my emergency fund right now, so I'm not doing expensive trips this year," is a complete sentence. Some friends will respect it. Others won't. The ones who don't respect it are showing you they value their comfort over your financial security. Seventh and final major reason people fail. They treat $10,000 as the finish line instead of a milestone. They grind to get there, finally hit it, then unconsciously relax. They stop being as careful. They make a few larger purchases because they finally have savings. Within 6 months, they're back at $7,000 or $5,000, wondering what happened. $10,000 isn't where you stop. It's where you start having real options. It's the foundation you build everything else on. Once you hit it, the goal becomes $15,000, then $20,000, then 6 months of expenses, then a year. You don't change your systems just because you hit an arbitrary number. You keep executing because the systems are what got you there. Here's the brutal truth. Most people fail before $10,000 because they're treating it like a willpower challenge when it's actually a systems and environment challenge. You can't willpower your way past bad systems, accessible savings, unrealistic goals, unplanned irregular expenses, lifestyle creep, social pressure, and finishing line thinking. You need to fix the underlying structure. So if you've failed at this before, don't blame yourself for lack of discipline. Blame your approach. Automate savings first before anything else. Put the money somewhere that's annoying to access. Set realistic initial targets. Plan for irregular expenses. Defend against lifestyle creep. Get comfortable with social pressure. Treat $10,000 as a beginning, not an end. Fix those 7 things, and getting to $10,000 stops being this impossible mountain and starts being an inevitable outcome of better systems. And once you prove you can build $10,000, the next $10,000 comes faster because you're not fighting yourself anymore.